Thanks for being here. My name's Stanton West. This is Professor Pinkerton, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his songwriting process. So when you write a song, where do you start and how do you get to the end?
Well, there's a different approach depending on what the project is, because I write for a band as well as a theater circus project, and they often have very different demands. Usually with the original songs for just a band, they come out of nowhere. They, you know, inspiration strikes where it strikes, and it's, I just try to hold on for dear life and chase the idea before it pitters out of my mind.
Yeah.
When it comes to the circus show, there's usually defined parameters, which is both challenging and inspiring. I think there's something to be said about just giving a few guidelines, like you write a song. Well, that's difficult, but you give yourself just a little bit of a rule or two to work within, and all of a sudden inspiration pours. So write a country waltz. Yeah. It's like just those two parameters gives you an idea of how much you want to follow a tradition and how much you want to deviate to put your fingerprint on it.
Yeah.
You know, so something along that lines. So they said the songs I typically write that are not specifically intended for a theatrical production or to fill the function of music for the tight wire walker or whatever tend to be really, really out of left field. Like, and that's usually the most. I couldn't tell you why I stumbled on it or why that like epiphany snapped into my mind, but it's oftentimes the songs come in an almost complete form in a scenario like that. I just picture the whole plot twist narrative, whatever, from the get-go, and then it's just painting the details, you know, like what key will it be in, you know, approximate tempo, you know, what are the chord changes, what's the melody.
Yeah. Do you, when you're writing a song with lyrics, do you typically start with lyrics, or do you start with more of like the song itself, the groove and the key?
They said it's kind of both. It's I've written in a lot of context, and one thing is to be said is that it's very hard to boil down into one way that it always happens, you know. And so what I encourage people to do is let your mind wander. That's where the best ideas come from. Don't, like if you play in a polka band, don't feel completely dependent on that, because like whatever inspiration comes to you might be a polka song, but it also could be an orchestral chamber piece, and if that's what you're hearing, like, you know, chase that muse, and then figure out what you're going to do with it later.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to, oh, I need to write, you know, and I tend to listen to a lot of early American roots music, and that's a lot of the, you know, the palette that I'm using to inform what I'm doing. But there were less rules at the turn of the century. Like, everything hadn't been so cookie cutter yet. Like, so you have an artist who nowadays might be called a jazz or a blues artist who really did all sorts of stuff. They might have written a mazurka because they were doing like a wedding, that, you know, whatever. There's just like, there are less rules about what you're allowed to do. Yeah. And the music seems much more authentic and spontaneous and genuine, as opposed to most songs you hear now on the radio are incredibly calculated, and it's like the answer to a whole bunch of like surveys, and that doesn't mean that you can't make great music in those confines. It's just usually you can, if you have an informed ear, you can feel that it's contrived.
Yeah.
And, you know, but that's not, I'm going to go on a limb here and say that 99.99% of people aren't going to be a pop star, so it's irrelevant.
Yeah, yeah. Can you expand on less of the songwriting part of, like the actual, you know, guts of it, and how do you allow yourself to have the freedom to not have rules? You know what I mean?
Well, you have to be a little fastidious, I mean, whatever, yeah, you get the idea. You have to be very uncompromising in the sense that you set time aside where you can daydream, where you can whatever, time that's kind of just you time, where you don't have stress, you don't have deadlines, you don't have a specific goal in mind. You just allow yourself to enjoy the journey and where it takes you.
Yeah.
Because nothing kills creativity like that. Well, I'm not going to go, I won't go too far with that, because sometimes deadlines are the thing that really helps you bring something home. But at the early steps, when you're first developing a concept, realistic logistical concerns are the bane of your existence. Who cares? You have to just throw that out the window and allow yourself to just, you know, who cares whether or not you'll be able to record it or whether or not how you're going to do it. Like, just allow yourself a second to bring that idea into this world and kind of set the bed for it. Now, when it comes to the tail end of things, the polar opposite is true, because everyone has 30 or 40 great ideas that are just sitting in a notebook that never went anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's where having a deadline really is good, where you say, I don't care, you know, like, I don't have to necessarily meet this mark, but just no matter what, finish something.
Yeah.
Because you'll learn more from finishing something that's kind of lukewarm than you will from half finishing your masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like, and you know, just be kind to yourself. Just remember that every little misstep is going to be forgotten in the grander scheme of your creative, you know, journey.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
You want to take us out with a little ditty?
Oh yeah. Oh geez. How about? Oh man, I should have thought of a song to do from the get-go. Yeah, how about this? I don't know why this one. I kind of thought of this song years ago.
Take it away.
I've been walking along this dusty path for so long, I don't know where I'm going. Say goodbye while you say goodnight, my love. Yes, past the point with no return. So long ago, I can't remember home. I see it there in the cool night air somewhere. But the trebles knows, who the trebles knows for sure. The trebles knows, who the trebles knows for sure. Only the trebles knows, the trebles knows for sure. Trust in her road, she never done me wrong.
Trust, I like it. It's perfect. Thank you.